corrido riesgos. Has cometido errores. Y ahora una última victoria.
¡Indy! ¡Machácalos, Indiana Jones!
A lo largo de mi vida he visto de todo. Me han hecho vudú. Me han disparado 9 veces.
Hello, James. This is Pedro from Cartelera. How are you?
I'm good, Pedro. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Very happy to meet you. First of all, let me say congratulations on the film. I thought it was a wild thrill ride and fun adventure and a very emotional send-off to the character that we all love. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, first, I want to go back a little bit. It's no secret that Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is not the most highly regarded film in the franchise. So I personally think it's a very underrated film, but anyway, I want to know, did you go into this movie thinking that you had to maybe fix something or compensate for that in any way? Like, how did Crystal Skull inform this adventure?
The only way Crystal Skull influenced me was in talking to Stephen a little about it and thinking myself about what I was going to do with this one, was thinking about how I thought the challenge that Crystal Skull faced was more interesting than just, was it the best one or not the best one, or those kind of questions, but that Crystal Skull was different than all the Indiana Jones films that preceded it for one very simple reason. It's the only one that took place in an age of modernism.
Yeah.
Meaning the first 3 Indiana Jones films take place in the 30s and the 40s, a kind of golden age time in our Western culture. Nazis bad, Allies good. The score that John Williams made for those 3 films, the look and feel of a kind of classic Technicolor picture, the noir lighting, the shadows, the deep focus frames, the big characters running into big close-up, the hero in a fedora with a whip. These are all hallmarks of the golden age of Hollywood cinema. So the first 3 movies have a kind of unity of style and time that hold together. It's the time of golden age cinema, and it's in the style of golden age cinema. By the time you get to the mid-50s, when Crystal Skull takes place, it's a time of modernism. It's a time of rock and roll, Elvis Presley, science fiction, nuclear anxiety. We're not sure who the bad guys and the good guys are anymore. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. It's a kind of time of real politic. And so the natural fit between the idealistic, old school, kind of heroic, pulpy style of the original Indiana Jones films and a modernist landscape, there's a little oil and water there. And I think when I came on to do this film, I had to think really deeply about how to navigate the waters of how time had changed for Indiana Jones, not just getting older physically himself, but how the world around him had changed. And he might feel a bit obsolete in this new world when our story begins. Of course, finding his mojo by the end of the picture was important to me as well.
Yeah, well, you mentioned science fiction. I want to touch on that because I think, well, magic and science fiction in general have always been a part of the franchise. But some people sometimes forget that. And this one, I feel personally that is a big reminder of that. Did you want to go out like with a bang, like celebrating that aspect in particular of Indiana Jones?
Well, the movies always end with a powerful statement of the unknown playing a powerful role in the end of the film. How little we know about the way the universe or spirituality or our world works. And that, so that was the interesting question of science fiction is like, I don't know these rules where you know, dark angels coming out of a box and exploding people's heads is fantasy, whereas a crack in the fabric of time is science fiction. I don't recognize these. They're differences without a difference to me. They're science fiction is like Blade Runner. Science fiction is a contemplation of a future time with assumptions about the world based on kind of futurist postulations about the way the world may change. Like Star Wars is not science fiction. It may feature spaceships, but it's much more of a Western or a kind of World War II, pilot adventure than it is anything resembling science fiction. But many would think of it as science fiction because there's spaceships in it. I'm, as a guy who's made movies that would belong in all different categories in the video shop: science fiction, horror, romantic, musical, biopic, musical, car racing. You might find that I give the least shit about all these different people dividing movies into categories and then making rules about how each category should function. Because as a artistic journey for myself, I've wandered between all these genres, and the thing that is always illuminating to me is how things you learn in a Western can have application in a musical biopic, and things you learn making a musical biopic can have application making an Indiana Jones film, and that I'm always carrying with me lessons from another genre into the other. But your real question about the end of this film and whether I felt the third act of these movies needs to be surprising and needs to press our buttons in the sense of expanding our sense of what's possible. For me, because one of my first decisions on the film was to make it a movie about time, not time travel, but just time itself. I had a hero who's in his 70s, so time as shown by physical aging was playing a role. Also, time in the way it's changed around our hero. The world times have changed, as I was discussing with what we were talking about with Crystal Skull. These became factors. And then to me, even the issue that Indiana Jones all his life has been focused on time and has been looking backward to try and learn about what's ahead. And so it seemed to me a very logical place to go with our final chapter would be with a large-scale examination of the themes of time itself.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm out of time. Speaking of time, I have to wrap it up. Thank you so much for
My
speaking.
pleasure. Thank you.